In the heart of the dense, mist-shrouded woods of Vermont, there stood an abandoned asylum. Its crumbling stone walls and shattered windows were a testament to the years of neglect and decay. Local legends spoke of the horrors that occurred within its walls and the spirits that still roamed the halls, tormented and angry. For years, the building had been the subject of ghost stories and dares, yet few had the courage to explore its forsaken corridors. One autumn evening, a group of 5 friends, Alex, Sarah, Mike, Jenna, and Tyler, decided to venture into the asylum. They were thrill seekers by nature, drawn to the paranormal and the adrenaline rush of facing their fears. Equipped with flashlights, cameras, and a sense of bravado, they set off towards the sinister silhouettes of the asylum under a pale, crescent moon. The entrance loomed ahead, a gaping maw of darkness framed by rotting doors hanging from their hinges. As they stepped inside, the temperature seemed to drop dramatically, and an oppressive silence enveloped them. Their flashlights flickered, casting eerie shadows on the graffiti-covered walls. "Let's split up," Alex suggested, trying to mask the quiver in his voice. "We'll cover more ground that way." Reluctantly, the others agreed, each pair taking a different wing of the asylum, while Tyler ventured into the basement alone. The air was thick with the smell of mold and decay, and the creaking of the floorboards echoed ominously through the empty halls. As Sarah and Alex moved through the eastern wing, they stumbled upon the remains of the old patient records room. Papers were strewn everywhere, detailing the harrowing histories of the asylum's inhabitants. Disturbing sketches and notes about experimental treatments and lobotomies sent shivers down their spines. Sarah picked up a particularly worn file, and as she read it aloud, she felt an inexplicable sense of dread. In the western wing, Jenna and Mike found the recreation room. Rusted wheelchairs and broken furniture lay scattered across the floor. The windows were boarded up, but a faint, otherworldly light seemed to seep through the cracks. As they moved deeper into the room, Jenna felt a cold hand brush against her arm. She turned quickly, but there was no one there. Mike's camera suddenly started to glitch, capturing fleeting images of ghostly figures that seemed to vanish as quickly as they appeared. Meanwhile, in the basement, Tyler wandered through the labyrinthine tunnels, his flashlight flickering more frequently. He felt an overwhelming sense of being watched, and the shadows seemed to move just beyond his vision. He stumbled upon an old operating room, the walls stained with decades-old blood. Rusted surgical instruments lay scattered around, and a decayed gurney sat in the center. As he approached, he heard the faint sound of whispered voices, growing louder and more insistent. His heart pounded as he spun around, trying to locate the source of the voices, but he saw nothing but darkness. Back on the ground floor, Sarah and Alex heard Tyler's screams echoing from the basement. Panic surged through them as they raced to find their friend. Jenna and Mike, hearing the commotion, also rushed to the basement entrance. Together, they descended into the depths of the asylum, the air growing colder with each step. When they reached the operating room, they found Tyler lying on the floor, unconscious. His flashlight was shattered, and deep scratches marred his arms. As they tried to revive him, the whispers returned, louder and more menacing. The walls seemed to close in, and an overwhelming sense of dread filled the room. Tyler's eyes snapped open, but they were not his own. They glowed with an unnatural light, and his voice, distorted and inhuman, spoke words that none of them understood. He rose to his feet, moving with a jerky, unnatural gait. The others backed away in horror, realizing that their friend was no longer in control of his own body. Desperate to escape, they fled back up the stairs, the whispers following them, growing into a cacophony of screams and moans. The asylum seemed to come alive, the walls pulsing and the shadows reaching out to grab them. They burst through the front doors, stumbling into the cold night air. As they caught their breath and looked back at the asylum, they saw Tyler standing in the doorway, his eyes still glowing. He raised a hand, and the doors slammed shut with a deafening crash. The whispers faded, replaced by an eerie silence. The friends never spoke of that night again. Tyler was never found, and the asylum remained as it always had, abandoned, forgotten, and haunted by the spirits of its tortured past. The townsfolk continued to tell stories of the lost souls who entered the asylum and never returned, warning others to stay away from the cursed place. Years later, as the asylum was finally set to be demolished, workers reported strange occurrences and sightings of a young man with glowing eyes. Despite the warnings, the demolition proceeded, but on the night the building was reduced to rubble, the whispers returned, louder than ever, echoing through the town and ensuring that the asylum's dark legacy would never be forgotten.